Hello everyone and welcome back to Jessie Kate Creates. Today we are jumping right into the video. So what you see here is a Simon Says Stamp layering heart stencil. You could use any stencil you have on hand. And I also have a piece of cardstock that's 80-pound cardstock that's been cut down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. We are doing a bunch of ink blending in the video today. So I've just taken the Concord and Ninth Premium Dye Ink in the color Marmalade, and I am just putting it all over my stencil. I wanted to make sure I got all the nooks and crannies of that stencil, and I wanted the color to be really intense. Now, the next step, we're going to do some heat embossing, but I want to show you something first. I have two different watermark ink pads. The first one you saw is my dirty pad, and this is my clean pad. So this is the pad that I use if I'm going to clear emboss on white paper and I want the white to stay vibrant. I don't want to use like a dirty ink pad for that. So today I'm going to be using my dirty ink pad in case it gets contaminated. So right now I'm taking a lightly damp stamp chamois and just lightly wiping it over my stencil to remove some of the excess orange ink from the top of the stencil so that my ink pad doesn't get crazy dirty. And now I'm just taking the ink pad and pressing it directly onto the stencil to color in those hearts. You could totally use an ink blending tool for this, but I don't have a tool for my Versamark ink, so I just find pressing it into the paper is easiest, and I was very generous with the ink to make sure I got all of the hearts completely coated. So the next step is to cover that sticky ink with clear embossing powder. That's what I'm doing here. I'm just doing it over a coffee filter to catch a little bit of the mess. And off camera, my heating tool was getting nice and hot. So I just brought it over to my panel to melt all of that powder. I love watching it melt. There's just something magical about heat embossing, right? But anyway, I just make sure that I get all of the hearts nice and melted. I think this would be gorgeous if you did it with like oranges or pinks. Maybe I'll do that. If I do that, I'll probably post it on Instagram. So if you're not following me over there, you definitely should. I'll have it linked below. Okay, so now we're moving on to the embossed resist portion. So I have this dark blue called Midnight from Concord and Ninth. And again, I'm just blending it all over my panel. And as you can see, where the hearts were heat embossed, they resisted that blue ink. So I just have a rag that I'm using to wipe the excess ink off of those hearts. Look at all that blue ink we want to get at. So I just took my time here to make sure that I got all of the blue ink off the panel, and this is what it looks like. I loved how this was turning out. So since I had all my supplies out, I decided to do another card using Marmalade and that bright green ink called Parsley from Concord and Ninth. Now here I decided I did want to trim down my panels and I decided to kind of center up the hearts. I cut roughly a 1/4 inch off of each side so that the panel had an even 1/4 inch border all the way around it. So with the panels cut and set aside, I'm moving on to the focal point of these cards. For that today, I am using some adorable stickers from the Dollar Tree. You may recognize these monsters. I've used them in another video before, and I will link that above and in the description box below if you want to see that. So I have these owl stickers. I thought that owl in the suit is so adorable, right? I really loved him, but this owl with the blue beanie, the colors just work so perfectly. It's like they were made to go together. And for the monsters, I thought about using that like orange guy. You'll see me pull it off in a second, but I ended up deciding to go for the dinosaur instead. Now, one of the reasons I decided to use my stickers today is because I didn't feel like coloring. And I have a ton of stickers in my stash, so I was like, I'll just use those instead. Work smarter, not harder, right? So for the sentiments on these cards, I just have a stamp set from Spellbinders called Sending You. It has a lot of really great small sentiments, and I just pulled the one that says Hugs and Kisses, and I stamped that in the same orange ink onto some scrap cardstock. I believe this was 80-pound, and cut those down so that they'd be ready to go. So now I've gone back to the panels, I put foam tape all over the back, and I adhered both panels to an A2 side folding white card base. So for the stickers, you can see here, sometimes Dollar Tree stickers are doubled up. So I just carefully peeled them apart. That doesn't always work, but for these stickers it did. And I decided that instead of putting them directly onto the card base, they needed something behind them so they'd really pop and stand out. So on my desk, I just had this white die cut circle. It's probably like 65 or 80 pound cardstock that I cut out with a circle die. I don't know how long ago. It was just a scrap from another project that was on my desk. And I'd say the circle is about 2.5, maybe 2.25 inches. The size doesn't really matter. It just needed to be big enough that it could hold my sticker, which it could. So I took my sentiment and added a small piece of foam tape to the back of it and then popped that up on the circle as well. And I'm just kind of positioning that little piece, and I thought it looked good. So I added a piece of foam tape, and then you're gonna see that I changed my mind. I decided maybe I want this somewhere else. So I kind of tried it out a couple different places on the card and decided I really liked it hanging off the edge. I thought it gave it a little bit of interest. But that means I need to cut my circle down a little bit. So I just positioned it into place and marked with a pencil where I needed to trim off. And that worked out perfectly. Although ideally you do that before you put the foam tape on the back, but this worked too, right? So I just get that positioned on there and voila, good to go. So now we're gonna move on to the green and orange panel. So once again, I separated my stickers. I took the foam tape off the back because I didn't love it. It didn't feel super sticky, so I just decided I'd put my own on there. And I also grabbed my sentiment to figure out where I wanted that to go. I wised up this time and I cut my circle down before I added the foam to it. Now you will notice this is, for the circle on this one, I'm using a piece of clear vellum. And again, that's really just because I didn't have another white circle on my desk, but I had this pre-cut out vellum circle and it fit my monster. So I thought, perfect, let's use it up and get it off my desk. So I put foam tape on the back of my sentiment and on the back of my monster, and I stuck those down to the circle. And then once those are down, I will flip the circle over and add more foam tape to the back of the vellum. Now you'll notice I only put foam tape behind the sticker and the sentiment because I don't want the foam tape to show through the vellum. So that way it keeps it hidden. And voila, there we go. The inside of these cards are blank because I'm not sure how I want to use them. Of course, they could be Valentine's Day cards, but I might want to use them as like a birthday card or a thinking of you, so I left them blank. I also decided to add some sequins to my cards. The sequins at the top of the screen are from Amazon. I got them years ago. If I can find them, I'll link them below. And the blue sequins on the left side of the screen are sequins from Dollar Tree. And I decided to use a mixture of both so I would have different sized sequins. I was off camera when I added most of the sequins, so I didn't add that in here. But I just adhered them with some wet glue. And there you go. That completed the cards for today. I really enjoyed these cards. I thought they were really fun, and I absolutely love this orange and green one. This looks like a card that like 7-year-old Jessica would have like been amped to get for like Valentine's Day or a birthday. So I really love these cards. I hope you did too. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.